I got sunshine on a cloudy day. And when it's cold outside, it's Motown, baby. Motown. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz with you here on NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV. And I'm very happy to be with you on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday, which the first thing we have to do, congratulations are in order to one Mike Lubie, Lubitz. How rare is this? Who needs all these handicappers? Who needs Brandon Lang, Mark Lawrence, all of these experts that we have on the show that are dynamite, by the way? I mean, these guys are great. They do this for a living, and they're very successful. But we have Mike Lubie Lubitz here on the program that went 4-0, swept the board. Did you put any money on any of these games by any chance?
On any of it? No.
That's why you swept the board. Mine bets are much better than actually laying out cash, because I would have to say that lifetime I'm even on mine bets, even though I'm probably like 7,000 games below 500. But no money exchanges hands. Louis the Lip isn't calling you on Monday morning and saying, graveyard, 10 o'clock. Don't make any excuses. Anyway, a great weekend of football all the way around. Of course, we had the playoff games that would lead to the conference championship games, and now only 4 are standing. Many people saw the Baltimore Ravens as the best bet of the weekend, even laying 9.5. That got a little bit dicey as it was 10-10 at halftime. You had the big punt return by the Houston Texans. You thought maybe, wow, this Cinderella story can continue with C.J. Stroud. That went up in smoke as apparently Lamar Jackson just lit it up in the locker room and lit into all of his teammates and woke them out of a coma. There was a little bit of ring rust going in that game. And same thing applied to the San Francisco 49ers. Did not look like themselves. If I'm the agent for Deebo Samuel, I'm on the phone with John Lynch right now. If you go back to the regular season, the 3-game losing streak was attributable to what? The absence of Deebo Samuel. After that, they looked great. And in this ball game that they had to stave off the upstart Green Bay Packers, what was missing? Deebo Samuel. What nearly happened? The San Francisco 49ers, by all rights, should have easily lost that game. They had that stop on the 4th and inches. That took possibly 7 points, at least 3 off the board. Several other plays in the ball game went their way, which was fractional and marginal, and they managed to hang in there and pull off the victory. And then Jordan Love did what a lot of quarterbacks do in that spot, including Baker Mayfield in his Tampa Bay game against the Detroit Lions, as they threw that last-minute desperation pick in the middle of the field. And that undid any chance they had of making a comeback in those ball games. Big controversial play. Everybody was all over it on the internet and all over social media about Todd Bowles' decision when he got within 8 points of the Detroit Lions. Todd Bowles' decision to go for 2 points after the touchdown that would have put him within 7. Seemed absurd, but I applaud that move. Way to go, Todd Bowles. That was the only way it seemed like, unless they scored again, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could have covered the spread. Holy Pete Rose. How did everybody miss that? Everybody said, oh, analytics, my God, what kind of cockamamie math? Just insane that he would go for 2 in that spot, which it did seem insane, except if you think about it, a lot of people had that game at 6 and a hook. Don't you think that Bowles deserves applause and some kind of salutation for realizing that he was about to bury all the Tampa Bay bettors unless he went for 2 in that position, because it was unlikely they were going to get the ball back in time to score again. What did you think about that? That seemed like the most pozoic move of the postseason so far.
I've just been around you a long time, because I was like, and they were, I guess the analytics, I don't know, I guess because the kicks are
What kind of analytics? I mean, what kind of crazy new math is that?
I guess people miss extra points at a high rate. Now, I don't know, because they did this thing where then the numbers say that to make back-to-back kicks isn't that much better than making it. I'm like, what? Why would you now missed it 2 and you have to make, I'm like, the only reason you go for that is if you're trying to cover 6 and a hook.
Exactly. When Pete Rose is the official commissioner of the National Football League, everybody will understand that move, and everybody would just bow in admiration for Todd Bowles for having the guts to go ahead and try and appease the bettors. Now, great action all the way across the board. The Bills and the Chiefs, you were right about that. The Bills found a way to cough up that ball game. This guy, Bass, he was so suspect the week before. He nearly put the Steelers into the winner's circle.
You said it, yeah.
With the block kick, I would have been very leery about going into that game, the championship game, or the divisional championship game, with this guy kicking the ball for me. I guess, where do you find somebody? I mean, do you dig up Pete Gogolak? I don't know. What do you do in that spot? You're going with the kicker that you had. Wind, I don't know if that took that thing, but man, did that take a sharp banana to the right? Looked like one of your golf shots there,
honestly.
I'm surprised we didn't hear the guy. I guess the crowd noise was so loud and the decibel level was so great that you couldn't hear Bass, the kicker, yelling, 4! As that thing was shanked and ricocheting off trees in the woods. But I think the Cinderella story right now has to be the Detroit Lions. Everybody's all over the Detroit Lions. And, of course, we had Dan Campbell here as a head coach very briefly with the Miami Dolphins. He served an interim position with the Miami Dolphins. They bagged him. He did a lot of things there that were contrarian type of things where, he was almost like the second coming of George Allen. I remember when Tom Coughlin refused to let his players, this was a wise medical decision, refused to let his Jacksonville Jaguar players who are practicing in the summertime in 1,000-degree temperatures. I mean, it's warmer out in Jacksonville in the summertime than it is in hell, for God's sake. And he decided, no water. It's for the weak. And the thing, guys are passing out, guys are dying of dehydration, and you're going to tell them they can't have a sip of water in between? That would never fly today. Who was the head of the players' union at that time? My God, you talk about a weak capitulating position where, the guys, negotiation strategy was hit me, beat me, call me bitch. Exactly. But Dan Campbell filled that mold, and then he got the job with the Detroit Lions as the head coach, and a lot of people thought that was extremely suspect. In fact, what was interesting was that Dan Campbell was part of the Lions team that will forever live in infamy after going 0-16. Yep. Many years back. He was on that roster, so he knows what pain is all about. Comes in and wins 3 games in his first year. But the best part of his whole tenure there was that opening press conference. It was very Adam Gase-esque. Remember when we found out that Adam Gase was a complete wacko when he got the job with the Jets and those eyeballs were all over the place? He looked like the actor Marty Feldman. I don't know if you young people remember Marty Feldman, but he had the bulging eyeballs. And you were thinking, how weird is this guy? Here's the quote from the Dan Campbell press conference here. I'm going to go ahead and just read this straight out verbatim for you. And he's talking about how, and you see this. I mean, there's a huge identity. Campbell in the city, he's opened up this thread where there's unison all over the board. Detroit has been kind of down for a while now, a long, long time. Not just the Lions. I mean, the Lions haven't been a championship team since 1957. Yep. Station wagons were just coming into vogue. Eisenhower was president. My one experience in Detroit, by the way, talking about the feel of the city and the pulse of the city, I was driving out to California with a friend of mine. We were going to make the move. We'd gotten out of Syracuse University, bounced around a little bit in New York, thinking, hey, maybe I'll get a job here. I hated the idea of working in New York City. And I had my Ratso Rizzo dream, only this time it was involving a trip to California because I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain. Let me get the fuck out of here. What was my attitude? So we were stopping at different places where we could stay for free, where we knew people across the country, one of which was Detroit. Now, I haven't spent too much time in Detroit. I'm glad I didn't that time because we ended up making a wrong turn, as is customary when you're doing these sort of things on these long road trips. And we ended up in the heart of the inner city around 2:00 in the morning. Oh, so I'm stopped at a traffic light. I'm driving a 1973 Chevy Vega, which also was a car of the year at that time. We should still sue Motor Trend magazine. The last time I saw that Vega, it was on the back of a truck that was taking and shipping cars to Mexico City after I had gotten rid of the thing. But on that particular occasion, we're at a red light. And my friend says, hey, it's a red light. You're not supposed to be moving. And I said, my foot is on the brake. And we had been surrounded by people who had actually lifted the car off the ground and were carrying it. And I thought, this is not going to be an easy situation to get out of. Sometimes you're in a spot where you just know you're going to have to take a beating. And you're thinking, let me kick one guy in the balls. And at least I'll feel like I got my measure of satisfaction out of this because I'm going to end up looking like Vito Antifermo after the Hagler fight or, bleeding as badly as Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne bleeder. So we go back to day number 1. He's announced as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. This is Dan Campbell that we're talking about. And this is his quote. This team is going to take on the identity of this city. And the city's been down. And it found a way to get up. It's found a way to go overcome adversity. And so this team is going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we'll be going to the ground with a smile on our face. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite off a piece of your kneecap. Yeah, let's go.
They all cheered, I remember.
The ramblings of a madman, Lubie. The ramblings of a madman. Unbelievable. So he wins 3 games the first year. His second year, wow. I mean, he starts out, remember, 1-6.
Mhm.
And the rumblings were this guy may be, identifiable to a lot of the blue-collar workers here and the guys that are on the assembly lines in Detroit, but he can't coach his way out of a paper bag. And you would have thought that he would have been canned right then. Surprisingly, the people in Detroit that are running the organization said, "Oh no, we think this guy can really do it." And what does he do from there? He goes 8-2. He knocks the Green Bay Packers out of the postseason and sends Aaron Rodgers packing in the process in that final regular season game where the Packers only had to cruise to a victory at home over the Detroit Lions. They put up a whale of a battle. And then this year goes 12-5, wins a division for the first time in centuries, and now has the team going to the conference championship game to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who, did they not look a little bit vulnerable to you? 7-point favorites, by the way, Mr. Expert. Now everybody's clamoring for your picks. Can you believe that?
Purdy looked like I was scared he'd look. I mean, he looked average. Like he didn't. All these other quarterbacks looked impressive, including Goff, and he was the weak link of this weekend.
But he did orchestrate that game-winning drive, which was the kind of stuff that legends are made of.
He was solid, and he was just enough, and that's why I thought they'd win and not cover, which is what happened. And now Samuel was probably going to play, but you don't know what he is. You don't know how healthy he is. And I love Jason Cole. We had Jason Cole on one of our shows, and he talked about how it wasn't Deebo Samuel, it was Trent Williams, which was their issue, the 3-game losing streak. Well, Trent Williams played, and he was fine. So, no, it was Deebo Samuel. Like, their offense literally is night and day when he's healthy and when he's out. It's just crazy how important he is to that team. So we'll see. I presume the Niners will win that game, but if the spread is over 3, I would
it's
go
7.
Lions. Yeah, I go if it stays around that number, I'd go Lions. I think this team is really game. It's freaking weird, but this team.
I like that you're picking games with confidence now.
Yeah, well,
one good 4-0 weekend. It's kind of like when we hit that exacta many years ago at Roosevelt Raceway, and we thought, wow, this is easy. And then came out, and as we talked about, you have to learn to read the signs from the gods of gambling. We came out, my friend's mother's car was on fire in the parking lot, and I should have known right then to get out of it. You could rest on your laurels on this one, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and people would find it more than okay. 4-0 over the weekend, right? I don't know. You can't do any better than that. That was expert handicapping to an exponent that we haven't seen before. Just unbelievable. 7 points is a lot. I mean, wouldn't you take a shot? Does Detroit have a chance to win this game, even though they're on the road? 49ers are on the ropes. I mean, by all rights, you would have thought Green Bay wins that ball game easily. They were going to be inside the 10-point spread no matter what. Yep. But took a lot of luck for the San Francisco 49ers to even be in a position to come out and get that game-winning drive. And then Green Bay was in there with enough time and a somewhat legitimate shot to get into field goal range before the interception on a really pathetic pass by Jordan Love going to his right, throwing back into the middle of the field, ends up getting picked off. And that was it. People die in fairy tales, too. That's right out of Cinderella Man by the character who was playing Max Baer. By the way, did you know this? Can you figure out Max Baer's son was known for what? Max Baer, the great boxer that was featured in Cinderella Man, taking on James J. Braddock. The guy was a killer. He was a maniac. They really portrayed him as an evil character. But his son, of course, played Jethro in the Beverly Hillbillies, Max Baer Jr.
That's funny.
There you go. There's a trivia question for you that most people would know if you were, say, in excess of 80 years old. And then, of course, last night, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, you called the Chiefs with the points. They're getting points on the road. Storyline there. You had Patrick Mahomes hadn't played a road playoff game before. Obviously, the Super Bowl is a road game of sorts, but sort of neutral site. Hadn't been in a road playoff game. He had owned Josh Allen in playoff situations. People were comparing that quarterback duel, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, which was, I mean, it turned out to be good. I thought that game was a classic outside of the missed field goal, and everybody brought up and dragged up the name of Scott Norwood, who, wow, did Norwood miss like one field goal in his career? Yeah, he's right in there. Yeah, I mean, it's Jackie Smith, it's Bill Buckner all over again, known for one fatal play. And yet, as I recall, Norwood was a fairly steady kicker. This guy Bass, though, was completely suspect, and that was a weird thing, the way it veered off. But in the Allen versus Mahomes matchup, it's now all Mahomes in the postseason. People were comparing it to Ali Frazier. It wasn't that. Frazier had a win in the series, And, I mean, the thrill in Manila is right there before Eddie Futch stopped the fight. If he gets off the stool, Ali was going to quit, according to legend. And the story that was told to me many times by the late, great Angelo Dundee. He was ready to quit himself, but Dundee saw that Frazier wasn't going to get up off the stool, that Futch was going to wave it off, and he pulled. You can see this on the film if you watch the fight. He actually pulled Ali off the stool, and he said, as long as you stand up, you're the winner. And that's how that one ended. So that thing was just razor close. I mean, within an eyelash of having Frazier win all 3 fights. In this case, it's all Mahomes. I mean, this is more affirmed than Alidar. And I can still hear Chick Johnson saying, and Alidar's got a nose in front. Bullshit. It's all going to be affirmed. And that's what happened again. By the way, I'm not one of those people that wants to criticize CBS and the camera people for always going to Taylor Swift. I actually dig the shots of Taylor Swift freaking out. And how about Jason Kelsey?
I'm thinking pretty cool. He was losing his mind.
I'm thinking there's always one fat slob that's out there in the cold, that thinks he's a refugee from the Chicago Bears, the Cleveland Browns, the doghouse. It's going to be out there with no shirt on and 12-degree below temperatures. And then I'm looking, I'm going, wait a minute. That guy's just leaning out of the box there. That's Kelsey.
And why are they in a suite?
Hard to believe, yeah.
Right next to Taylor.
This is the white trash that Taylor Swift is hanging out with? This distinguished singer with all the accolades and seller of billions of dollars worth of records and albums and CDs. She puts on a concert and makes $50 million every time she lines up on stage. She's hanging out with this garbage. Are you kidding me? But I don't mind the shots. In fact, it's obligatory now. I would rather see a shot of Taylor Swift going ape than any of the pan shots of the crowd. With the people, of course, the Bills fans had their heads in their hands. But it was, a good ball game all the way through. Very tense. And Mahomes comes out on top somehow because of a missed field goal. A couple of opportunities there. The rule is going to change, I believe, about fumbling through the end zone.
I think it's a weird. I've never
stupid rule, huh?
I've never been a fan of it. I'm like, why? There's no other place on the field where you automatically why would they get the ball? So it goes through the end zone. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, if it slides out of bounds, the team that was in possession gets the ball back.
I've always hated that rule with a passion.
Who made that rule? What kind of stooge is that? Was that a rule that was brought about because it happened to Tom Brady on the opposite end? It's the only thing I could think of. So that rule is going to be addressed and it's going to change. All right, we have to run. It was a lot of fun. So the matchups are these. 7-point dogs, the Detroit Lions, Cinderella story against San Francisco. I'd be inclined to take the points there just right off the bat. And the Ravens, you would have to say the most impressive unit of all when you're talking about offense, defense, special teams. Most impressive unit of all that was on display this past weekend in the 4 games was the Ravens defense, which essentially gave up 3 points in the game.
Yeah, Stroud did nothing. Yeah, the Ravens, they're sort of just motoring through, man.
I mean, a little flat in the first half. I don't know if they were flatter than a Parisian runway model, as we like to say, but a little flat in the first half. They gave up the punt return. Otherwise, they're up 10-3. Yep. And then come out and slam the Houston Texans to the tune of 24-0. I would have to think, wow, laying 3.5 against what has been a suspect Kansas City team. I know they got there again 6 straight years in the AFC title game. Pretty impressive for the Fat Man and crew. But nonetheless, I think the Ravens come out a lot sharper in the first half than they were in this past weekend's first half, and probably are 3.5 points better or more than the Kansas City Chiefs. So the dog in the NFC game, the favorite in the AFC game, and Mike Lubie is on fire.
We'll see.
Congratulations, my friend. 4-0 right here on NoFilter.net. That is fantastic. I think Henry's going to make a thing out of it. He's got to find all the clips of you picking these games. All right, we'll see you next time. Appeal yourself off the map Monday edition of the Morning Briefing for Mike Lubie, Mr. Expert. I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Caffeine TV.